Anya and I work at Mesh Training Limited, and what we do is provide virtual reality solutions in education sectors and making sure that students are able to use virtual reality softwares confidently and collaboratively. And today I'm joined by Erica from CAD for Fashion.
Hello, hi, my name's Erica. I am founder of CAD for Fashion. CAD for Fashion supports the fashion industry and education with creative digital technology.
So the reason we're here today is to kind of talk about how virtual reality can be implemented into fashion workflows and into the fashion industry. And the main software that we're going to be talking about today is called Gravity Sketch, which is a 3D modelling and design software which lets you create, collaborate and present in virtual reality together. Often we find in product design that students will have this magnificent, complex idea in their head, and when they try and bring that down to earth and draw it out in 2D, they often miss certain aspects of it. And when they try to showcase that to their lecturer or potential client, they realise that they aren't able to communicate that design.
Yeah.
We were wondering if that's sort of a similar concept with fashion design as well.
Yeah, very much so. And I think with 2D drawing, students, especially in the early years, play it safe. They think small instead of big, and it's really hard to get across fabric texture and details and trims on a very small 2D surface. And often the level of drawing skill that's needed to get to the level of image that's going to be understood by people isn't quite there yet. So we often take an approach of a sketch, a mood board, some inspiration images, maybe some samples, and even then the person that you're pitching to or is giving you feedback it's down to their interpretation of what your idea is.
Yeah, we find that a lot in product design as well. And that's where we think that Gravity Sketch helps to break that barrier down. You know, you're able to get people into the same space and walk around that model.
Yeah.
And from there on, they all have a good understanding of what that product is.
Yeah.
So as you can see, me and Erica are in the same room physically, but digitally as well, we're sharing a space.
From my view, Anya could be in a different country and we could be in the same room working on the same model, coming up with different ideas, reviewing a product together. So it might be that we've actually already got something finished and it's imported from Clo 3D and we're just reviewing this object, we're annotating, we're drawing on top. But actually today what we're doing is just, having some fun. So fashion, it's interesting how product design and engineering have used 3D software for years. They've used VR and AR to review things. But for fashion, for a long time, we've not been able to do that because our materials don't behave. But it is engineering, technically, with pattern cutting. And often what we find is, so in the process for a fashion design student, for example, they'll do a sketch, they will source some fabric, then they will create a toile, so just a rough prototype. And then, only then, can they really start to think about the three-dimensional design. So I think Gravity Sketch has got a lot of potential to allow students and industry to think in a more three-dimensional way. And obviously we do also now have CAD software, Clo 3D for example, that allows us to work in 3D but on a screen. So we can see the 360. We're not relying on our drawing skills to communicate our ideas. However, there's a steep learning curve with that technology, and in my mind, it's still not 3D. Is it 3D if you can't walk around it? And also, the big thing that's missing when we work on screens, no matter how big the screen is, it's not to scale. So, things like sleeves or pockets or collars, they're really hard to get right. Scale, millimeters can make a difference between it looking ridiculous or looking too safe. So to be able to see it at scale, which you can do in Gravity Sketch, that's one of the things that excited me the most about the software.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that in terms of the scale as well, there's an element of and kind of going back to that collaboration side of
Yeah.
it. Whereas on Clo, okay, your teacher or your lecturer might be able to look down at the screen and
Yeah.
give you advice.
Yeah.
In Gravity Sketch, they can circle the area that they want you to work on,
Yeah.
annotate it, and
Yeah.
then you're able to go back in by yourself and
Absolutely.
take in those notes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And you can measure, which is really cool.
Yes, yeah.
So on our tool belt, we actually have a measuring tool, which means I can step behind the mannequin and measure it from its neck to its base. In Clo, your models are a lot more accurate to the dimensions you put in. So if you have a model or a person that you're using as reference, you can bring that model in from Clo into Gravity Sketch. So your measurements there can still be quite accurate, but it helps you kind of visualize what that might look like, especially if you're bringing that model in and using augmented reality like this.
And yeah, I think collaboration wise, that's for me, for like reviewing 3D objects, is definitely where I see it potentially changing the game, especially when we think about industry. So not just for like 12 critiques for your 3D garments with your lecturers, but in industry when we are trying to use more digital products within the design and development process, it's really hard to assess a digital product in the same way we would a physical product.
Yeah.
And it's important that we move away from too many physical samples because of the carbon footprint and the impact on the environment and the waste. But it's very much a problem that we are viewing something on a screen and we're expected to give it the same level of thorough examination on whether it works or not, especially when it comes to fitting a garment. So being able to see it one-to-one scale, and with the augmented reality, so you don't have to be in the virtual world, you can have your model there in front of you, one-to-one scale. You can all be in the same room, or you can be virtual, reviewing this 3D garment together.
And you mentioned in terms of industry that environmental impact. What does that process look like now, and where do you see Gravity Sketch cutting out unnecessary waste?
So at the moment, the designers will do an illustrator drawing with the fabric or the colour. That will get sort of narrowed down to what they would like to sample. But they're often sampling a lot more styles than they're actually going to be selecting. And that sample will then be made somewhere like India, China, Indonesia, and the components and the raw materials for that sample are in other countries. Things are moved around. Eventually they all end up in one factory for someone to stitch it. Then it's flown express over to a head office in Leicester, London, UK, for a group of people to decide whether they like it or not. And it's probably more economical to fly a whole shipment than it is just one garment or a handful of samples. It's something that there has been some research on recently, and I think the statistic is around 78% decrease in carbon emissions through virtual sampling versus physical sampling in the fashion industry.
I can imagine that's when you're doing it virtually, you have all the models kind of in front of you and you're able to go, okay, not this one, definitely not this one. And you're able to narrow it down quicker than you would be able to with all of the physical models.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the idea is that things like AI and 3D and VR enable you to get a better visual, more accurate representation of a final product earlier in the process, so that you can actually make better decisions on what is going into store. A lot of the time with the speed that things need to move at, with lead times, sometimes you're being forced into making decisions when something might not be quite right. Better visualization of your products earlier on so that you can make better choices, basically. And I think that even leads into overproduction or buying the wrong product. there is a lot that can be done to ensure more confidence in a product before it gets produced, thanks to a lot of different technologies. And I think VR in particular plays a part, and a really important part, I think. And some brands are already doing this, but one of the barriers, and I sort of touched on it earlier, to adopting 3D is that it doesn't feel familiar. It doesn't feel like, so now we would have a rack around the room. All of the samples are racked up in kind of like a visual merchandising manner. The decision makers would walk around, they would decide what's in, what's out. They'd want the fabrics, they'd want the colourways, they'd want full visibility of what they're improving at the right scale and in front of them. And then when it comes to fit, which is where 3D really comes into its own, we're used to having a fit model physically in the room wearing the garment, and the fabric is the correct fabric, and we can see how it fits in all different sort of poses. And there's kind of 3D hasn't been able to replicate that yet. However, I think tools like Gravity Sketch, virtual reality enable us to actually bridge that gap, the thing that's missing. The clothing you see on screen, where you're trying to zoom in and see different angles and get a feel for what the fabric might be like. Actually, if we have that object in virtual reality or augmented reality through Gravity Sketch, we can all review the fit of that product at the right scale together and see it in a way that we would see the physical product.
So in terms of people that might be watching this that actually don't know that much about virtual reality, what would you say to them, and what would be your hook for them to try out virtual reality?
So I would say the main thing is we can show you stuff on screen all day, every day, but it's immersive, isn't it? So if you haven't already tried a virtual reality headset, then I think you just have to get the headset on. And in particular, if you're an educator, so I have been an educator for a while now, and I'm so excited about the possibilities for learning and teaching in virtual reality. So, for example, having a garment imported from Clo3D, and we are exploding that garment, showing how the construction works, showing how the fit is created by the different pattern pieces. Reusing garments to make new garments, like think of like virtual reality collage. And again, these are the really hard concepts to just explain. You have to get in there and try it for yourself. And then honestly, industry, I feel like if anyone wants to come and have a virtual fit meeting with me in virtual reality, I will show you all the things that I'm super excited about in terms of the possibilities. And then also, if you're an individual, you're a designer at home, the experience of sketching in 3D is so much more enjoyable, so much more open, freeing. We design on a little trackpad or a mouse or a Wacom tablet on a little screen, and actually being able to stand up and draw and think about the 3D, and just a much more enjoyable way of sketching, essentially.
It definitely changes your perspective of what you can do and how you're allowed to create. But that's the thing about VR, is once you're in there, you realise how intuitive it can be.
Like some of the workshops we've run are like 15 minutes, and people are creating within that time from having not put a headset on before.
We have been recording for about 10 minutes, and this is what we've managed to make together, so you can see how fast you are able to do things in Gravity Sketch.
If you're interested in more things related to fashion, more things related to virtual reality, we'll also be doing workshops and demonstrations at Graduate Fashion Week.
So Graduate Fashion Week at the True Wind Brewery, week beginning the 15th of June. We will be there all 4 days with workshops, Gravity Sketch workshops, and I'll be running some workshops on a new technology as well. So come along, say hello and have a go for yourselves.